Welcome to IBM Watsonx with NeuralSeek Learning Lab, hosted by the team at Cerebral Blue. Our goal is to provide you with the essential knowledge for provisioning NeuralSeek and integrating it seamlessly with both an IBM Watson Discovery instance and an IBM Watsonx Assistant virtual agent. By leveraging the combined power of NeuralSeek and IBM's pioneering technology, prepare to enhance your technical expertise and optimize customer engagement strategies. We have a commitment to transparency and want to disclaim that participants are to come prepared with the necessary resources to fully engage in the practical exercises. We recommend having an active instance of NeuralSeek pay-per-answer subscription. Our team will provide the credentials for IBM Watson Discovery and Watsonx Assistant prior to the lab. We encourage participants to take advantage of the free trials and subscriptions available, but it is the responsibility of each participant to understand and manage the associated costs related to the use of NeuralSeek and any other integrated services within their IBM cloud environment. Kindly ensure that all necessary resources are set up and accessible prior to beginning the Learning Lab for a seamless and enriching experience. If you would like to connect with our technical team on a 15-minute call to provide any of the listed resources, please schedule utilizing our Calendly scheduler or emailing general@cerebralblue.com.
Hi everyone, so RJ here from the NeuralSeek team. We're going to be going over our virtual live learning lab. So on the other monitors and ton of stuff, I've got the IBM Learning Lab set up, labs.neuralseek.com. Perfect. All right, so everybody can see my screen now. We're going to be going over NeuralSeek, Answers as a Service, Module 1 and 2. So Module 1 is going to be setting up NeuralSeek, no code required. It's going to walk us through how to seamlessly integrate NeuralSeek with the virtual agent platform, Watson Assistant, and Watson Discovery. So since you're following along with us live today, we already provisioned Discovery and did a live web scrape of our documentation for you to follow along. If you're not on the live lab with us, then you'll need to provision Discovery and set up the data source ahead of time. So, going to go ahead and jump right into it, Module 1. So, configuring and setting up NeuralSeek. Module 1, set up NeuralSeek 1.1 right now. And we'll jump in. So, first off, we're going to go ahead and create a resource. Search the IBM resource catalog for NeuralSeek. Here we are. Next up, we're going to select the region and the plan. If it is available to you, it's recommended to use the light plan. If the light plan is not available to you, you'll want to select the pay-per-answer plan. Optionally, you can name the instance. So we can put in Learning Lab and today's date for you this easier reference. And go ahead and create. This will take us to the landing page to launch the resource. So we're just going to go ahead and launch NeuralSeek. Great. So we're at the home screen journey for NeuralSeek. So this is where we get started. Generally, you want to set the company name to whatever's referenced in the documentation. This helps focus some of the user questions like, what do you do? What do you as the company NeuralSeek do? So for our documentation, we're going to use NeuralSeek. Yeah, there you go. We're going to select English and the internal use case. And then we're going to use Watson Discovery credentials. So I've got these in a slide here. You guys should have access to this slide. Just in case you don't, I'm going to paste this into the webinar chat. But from here, I just got to copy all the values, service URL, PIQ, all that good stuff. If you don't have it set as an English knowledge base, we'll just want to select English here. and go ahead and test. Go ahead and test twice. Sometimes the first time it won't always work. You get a little warning there. Second time will give you the green check mark. And we will go ahead and hit next. From here, we won't dive into the categorization and use case here, but generally speaking, you're able to auto categorize intents. Like I can set up a category here with a natural language description, questions about IBM Cloud, for instance, and anything that we as a user would ask about NeuralSeek on IBM Cloud would get categorized under that in the analytics tab that I'll show you a little bit later. So we'll take the Watson Assistant actions and disable embedding links into the return responses and continue on to the next step. From here, we'll set the important phrases are surrounded by many lines of text that explain them. This in the background sets the snippet size. So if you have an FAQ document with very short, concise, what is this, with an answer that follows, you'll probably want the shorter one. Our documentation is big blocks of text and explanation, so we'll go with the larger block. We want to give lots of information to the LLM, so we want to give it as much information as possible, let it try to figure out the right answer. Sometimes you'll want to limit how much information goes down, and you can select the other option. And then finally, all of our documents are current and relevant. The other option does a little bit of date prioritization. So if you have like blog posts or something, a lot of conflicting information, maybe you have a release for 8.0.1 where it's 4 years old and the documentation mentions 2020, will deprioritize the old document because it has an old date than your new version in 2020. And then we'll go ahead and continue. Here, we've landed at the home screen of NeuralSeek. So here we're done with NeuralSeek. NeuralSeek is ready to answer. You can go ahead and move to the next step. We'll revisit these Q&A bits here in a little bit. Moving on to 1.2. Nice. We will set up Watsonx Assistant. So heading back over to the IBM Cloud page, we'll head over to the resource list, and we've got to get an instance of Watsonx going. So create a resource, search for assistant, and we'll grab the light plan of Watson Assistant. Again, optionally renaming it. Set the terms and create. And we'll go ahead and launch Watson Assistant. So everything on the home screen, just to answer your question there, everything on the home screen through that home screen journey, all those parameters are configurable later. This is just a quick start guide, effectively, to kind of get you bootstrapped with NeuralSeek. We can explore the configure tab a little bit later, but generally all those high-level settings that we saw at the home screen refer to more specific settings, like feeding a lot of information to the large language model. There's options to select how many documents go to the large language model. You can set it as few as 1 or 3 or unlimited, right? There's all kinds of levers that we can pull in the configure tab. So from here, we're just going to name the assistant, whatever you want here. I'm going to name IBM Lab AI and English and continue. So the purpose of this lab, these options don't really affect us. So you can pick anything you want here. I like to pick other student a lot. And go ahead and hit next. You can rename the assistant, change some colors if you want. It doesn't really affect the outcome here, so we're just going to continue to do that. And we have Watsonx Assistant. We'll hit the big blue Create button, and congratulations, we've got our assistant. So our next step is 1.3 on the lab guide. It's adding NeuralSeek as a custom extension. We've got to connect Watson and NeuralSeek. So we're going to head over to the sidebar and Assistant and check out the Integrations tab. From here, we're going to scroll down till you get to the extension section and build a custom extension. There's a little intro about custom extensions. We can continue next. Name the extension and hit next. Here, it'll prompt you for an open API document. You'll check out your NeuralSeek Integrate tab. So we'll go to NeuralSeek, Integrate. And the first tab that opens is the Custom Extension tab. Gives you our API key and the open API file that Watson is asking us for. So we'll go ahead and download that, grab it, and upload it on the assistant side. Hit next. And you'll see, this got accepted. We've got all kinds of functions available for NeuralSeek, and go ahead and finish. NeuralSeek's now configured, added to the chatbot. We still need to authenticate it. So there's one more step before we can get away from the Integrate tab. We've got to click on this NeuralSeek IBM Lab, whatever you name the extension, and hit add it to our instance. And this is where that API key is helpful. So I'm just going to go back, copy that API key out of the Integrate tab. And on the assistant side, we need to set API key off and input that API key. Joy, this is a specific API key to the instance of NeuralSeek that you provision as we're following through the lab. So we'll go ahead and finish and review the operations, finish. So NeuralSeek's now authenticated with Watson and ready to start answering questions as soon as we get the action set up. So we have it configured, we have it set up and linked. Now we need to set up the action so that we're able to have fallback search. So we're going to go ahead and go to Created by You under Actions and create an action. You can build this from scratch, but it's far easier to start with our template, do more with starter kits, and you'll find a NeuralSeek starter kit as an available option. We'll go ahead and select the starter kit and then add templates. Helps us out a lot. From here, you'll see the new action got created. The NeuralSeek search action is here. You'll notice that it's got a red status and it says it's missing an extension. So we set up a different extension in every instance, so we can't pre-program that. We just got to click on it, go to step 3. We'll remove this query context variable assignment, and then we'll scroll all the way down, edit the extension, and we're just going to select the extension name that we configured a few minutes ago. In my case, it was NeuralSeek IBM Lab. And then we'll choose an operation that we'd like to do. Tons of settings, tons of API calls that we can call from Watson Assistant and custom integrations, but we're going to seek an answer from NeuralSeek today. Finally, we'll set the question to a session variable that we said earlier in the action here, and apply. Here, we'll be able to save and close. You now see green checkmark status, no errors. If you're not seeing that green checkmark at this point, feel free to let me know. At this point, we've got everything linked together, everything configured. The final step is to actually set up fallback search. So we're going to, for the final step, we're going to go to set by assistant and no action matches. It's going to delete this bottom step here for the system to train. And then we'll go into the remaining action, step 1, and delete this conditional. So we'll see the default response before we set up NeuralSeek and connect it. Why is the sky blue? If you've been here before and you've worked with Watsonx, you will know that we're hitting fallback search right here and completing the action. So we're going to set up fallback search. We're going to delete this assistant says text, and we're going to change the and then action. We're going to not end the action. We're going to go to a sub action, and we're going to hit fallback search. Check mark the end this action after the other action is completed. Apply and save. From here, we're now connected to NeuralSeek. Fallback search is set up, and we can ask for a natural language generated response. You see, instead of no action matches, it now says go to NeuralSeek search. This will take 1 second, and we'll have a generated answer. Beautiful. At this point, you can inspect, see the API call, poke around, and explore. Ultimately, NeuralSeek is set up, tested, and ready to use now. Final step in the module 1 is just to check out some of the other options on the home screen of NeuralSeek. Some of the ways that we can help you get bootstrapped and quick started. There's 3 options here, so we'll go right to left. Upload test questions is for like regression testing. You want to download a list of questions, upload it here, and then view the confidence scores and results of it. And then you can compare that result report from month to month to see how well you're answering questions. The manually input questions is just a static list of, new line separated questions that'll get submitted and run through, answered, and scored. And then the auto generate questions is really where this shines. We have this new instance, we have this new company set up, and we want to get started quickly. So we're just going to hit the generate answers button, and we're not going to submit these because it'll take quite some time for that to process. But you can get an idea from whatever knowledge base we've connected to, in this case, NeuralSeek documentation. You can get an idea of what customers or users might out of this documentation. So you can see we talk about large language models, support, knowledge bases, data analytics, IBM cloud. The list goes. From here, you can submit those and it'll auto generate answers to all those. Again, I would not tie up your instance by doing that. If you accidentally press it, just go ahead and cancel and it'll stop. Awesome. The final bit of that, once you've generated those questions, you're able to output a JSON options file for your Watsonx Assistant to just import all those answers directly to the chatbot. It's an easy way to get a quick bootstrap going for your AI chatbot. Awesome. So at this step, we have connected NeuralSeek. We have set it up. We have connected it to our knowledge source. And then finally, we connected it to our virtual agent platform. So now we have all 3 components set up and working in Semantic. At this point, we can go ahead and launch into the second module, NeuralSeek Scale. So NeuralSeek Scale is an acronym for some of our main features and UI components. So we'll cover Seek, Curate, Analytics, Logs, and Explore. From here, I'm going to go ahead and launch Module 2, Scale, using NeuralSeek. This one's more about highlighting key features of NeuralSeek that are instrumental in training virtual agents and customer-facing chatbots. So I'm going to go ahead and start the lab, Module 2.1. We're going to check out NeuralSeek's Seek tab. Give everybody a second to make sure they're on this page. Awesome. So For our first test is going to be something simple. One question that you can ask from the lab guide is, what is the formula for pi? Now, I know that this will come back with some documents sometimes, just because we have PII in the documentation. Looks like it looks like it did good today. Um, we didn't get any documentation back. So as far as we're concerned, this is a corporate hallucination, right? This might be a correct answer from the base large language model training, but we have no knowledge of this, no documentation. And as far as us as a business user is concerned, this is a hallucination. You don't want to answer these questions. Some use cases you will want to allow fallback to general knowledge, but in other use cases, when it is important to stay in your ecosystem, you won't want these 0% semantic, very low confidence answers. So we'll compare the confidence score with something a little bit higher. What is NeuralSeek's feature? I love asking your product about itself. So from here, we can see the answer provenance is lighting up like Christmas lights. Lots of phrases are coming back directly verbatim from the documentation. We have a URL link back to where this came from. You can drill down to the actual data source where this came from. From here, we can check out some of the confidence scores and information content that comes back. So we can see the total response time. We can see how long of that was the knowledge base of choice. We can see how much coverage there was from the documentation, knowledge source, Discovery, and how well Discovery thinks that they answered the question or provided an answer. And then our semantic match score basically says how well we answered the question and we got the answer from the documentation. It's a two-part there. So generally anything over like a 10 to 20% semantic match is good, and anything higher is great. So that depends heavily on your use case and how strict your answers need to be. Um, Additionally, you can dive into the statistical details and check out a little bit more information, like how many source jumps there was, the deviation, total coverage, and how big the largest chunk is from the documentation. Uh, Generally, though, the helpful part of this is being able to say, this semantic match scores. I can click on it and I can see exactly where that text came from in the documentation. Okay, so good question. Architectural question. What benefit does using Watson Discovery have as opposed to a vector DB, Elasticsearch, or similar? So that's a double-edged sword. Watson Discovery is Elasticsearch under the covers, and it's powered by Lucene Search. So we can get into details about that all day, but at the end of the day, it's exact term matching. When you search for something like a version number, okay, a vector database match might search for 8.1.0 and get results back for 1.8.0, 8.0.1, or 8.0.10 because they're all similar. Where Lucene, now Elastic also has the exact matching capability. For Watson Discovery, it's Lucene based. So if you search for 8.1.0, it'll pull back results for 8.1.0. Now, there's tons of use cases where this is great and tons of use cases where this is bad. Some of the best results we've seen are from exact matching with Lucene-based knowledge bases, and some are better with a hybrid search of vector and Lucene. It definitely depends on your use case, but generally we see better performance and results with the Lucene-based matching. I hope that answers your question. Great. So from here, I'm just going to ask something a little bit more nuanced for the next step, right? Why would we pick something like NeuralSeek with a knowledge base instead of just ChatGPT and inspect the results here? I got another question. What if the what if the document link with the correct answer does not show up in the Seek section? How can you add it in so NeuralSeek can give it a higher confidence? Um, Ultimately, you need to add the documentation to your knowledge source. So if uh, let me make sure I'm understanding this right. Well, if the correct answer doesn't show up, these are actually results from discovery. So it's a discovery level issue. If the documents don't show up at all, it's an issue with your query not matching text in the document. Uh, we can offer relevancy training if you're able to see the document in here. Like, let's say, kind of give an example here. So, like, let's say, this seek page is more relevant. That's already 100%. Maybe this how to use page is a little bit more relevant. You can drag that slider up and down with Watson Discovery and offer relevance training. So next time we perform this search, this result will be more highly prioritized. You can do this a ton of times with a bunch of different documents. You can also edit answers. So a little bit later, we'll talk about Curate, and we'll be able to see how we can edit answers and correct information that might be a little bit off base or incorrect. Um, if you choose to, you can take a little bit more time to check out some of the other questions at the bottom of the lab guide. How does NeuralSeek protect private information, so on and so forth. Um, So I got another question. What tools does NeuralSeek have for tuning the answer's tone, format, correctness? Um, Correctness is tuned by updating your documentation. If there's bad documentation, you're going to get bad answers. Um, Improving the documentation is key. The analytics tab helps you a little bit with that. We'll cover that here in a moment. And to answer this specific question about tone and format, I will deviate from the lab just for a second to show you our answer engineering and prompt engineering. Now, this is very finicky at times. You do not want to say something like only answer from the documentation because we do extensive prompting for that. But you are able to go in here and say, output in bulleted list format if possible. Keep in mind we're deviating from the lab a little bit, so not everybody needs to follow along here, but I'm going to ask it this same question, the same nuanced question, and see the output change. I could do the same thing with output in the tone of a cowboy or output in the tone of a helpful virtual assistant, things like that. But it can counter some of our extensive prompting, so use with caution. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and continue on to the next tab. We're on 2.2, NeuralSeek Curate. So we've talked about the options here a little bit um, for seeking and how we can pull the levers around seek, look at the semantic matching, and so on. So now we'll go over to the Curate tab and kind of start taking a look at where these answers go and the questions that you've asked are now stored. So, we can see we asked why the sky was blue a long time ago in the Watson Assistant tab, and you can see there was a really low confidence. There's no coverage in the knowledge base. This is, effectively a terrible answer, right? We don't know anything about it. It's a hallucination. So we can compare this to like, what is NeuralSeek's Seek feature, right? We have great knowledge base coverage. We have very respectable confidence score of how well we think we answer that question. And we can see overall a trend where these question answer pairs are going. So as far as caching goes, this ties hand in hand with the configure tab a little bit. So we'll be on both pages. You can curate and edit information here, and this also helps future language generation in terms of style. We can go in here and say, something like, "Why is the sky blue?" Sky appears blue because of physics. It doesn't really matter what you put here. I'm just trying to make an edited answer. So you can see now we have an edited answer. We've manually said that this is what we want our documentation to show. This is the answer you should have. This is close to manually building out cards in Watson Assistant, but this also helps future language generation on the NeuralSeek side. So in the configure tab, we're just going to head over here, scroll all the way to the bottom to governance and guardrails. No, sorry, that's wrong space here. If you don't see this already, you're just going to want to hit show advanced options and intent matching and cat configuration. So here we're able to pull a few levers. We're able to look at how well we match intents. We can fuzzy keyword match to intents, or we can exact match questions to the intent. You can see those on the Curate tab where we have similar questions here. We can define how loosely or how strictly we want to match into these specific intents, particularly helpful when we edit answers. We can drag the edited answer cache down to 1. So what this means is once there's one edited answer, we stop all language generation. We receive the question, why is the sky blue? We recognize there's an edited answer. We stop in our tracks and we serve that answer. Normal answer cache functions very similarly. So what'll happen is normal answers are language generation. If I set this to like 3 and we ask the same question 3, 4, 5, 8 times in a row, as a human, if you ask me the same question more than once, I'm going to assume that the way I worded it the first time, you didn't understand, or there was some miscommunication. There's a reason you're asking it in the exact same way more than once. So we're going to generate a slightly different answer over and over again until we hit this normal answer cache. We're going to say after we've generated 3 unique answers, we're going to stop language generation. And you can disable that limit, or you can set it to up to 5. Typically, we only store 5 answers in the UI, but they're all there in the background. Go ahead and save. So I'm saving this with one edited answer cache set. And on the Seek tab, we'll just take a look and say, why is the sky blue again? Just to take a look at what that edited answer looks like. So you can see we had very little response time. It took no time. We have a 100% semantic match because this was an edited answer. We know that this is correct answer, and you can see where the answer came from. This trained answer, FAQ blue sky, and drill right down into it and edit it for future generation. So I think that covers the inaccurate example. We can come in, edit answers as we see fit. It helps future language generation. Some of the other actions that we can take from here, if I clear the search out, we can come in here and we can say, I want to export these to Watson Assistant, come over to Watsonx Assistant and upload these actions as static dialogue or actions. This helps with the per language generation charge at times. What you can do is you can use NeuralSeek as your fallback language generation search. And then once you've, let this loose for a week or two, you come in here and say, here's the top asked questions, manually curate them, say these are good answers, and curate them into your Watsonx Assistant to reduce answer time and improve your cost overall. We also offer round trip logging. So basically, Watsonx will phone home to NeuralSeek and say, "Hey, this user just asked me about ChatGPT knowledge base. Do we have any new information about this?" And we'll give them a thumbs up or a thumbs down that says, "Hey, this is new information," or "No, it's the same information from the documentation that we have from the website." And we'll give you a little star here that says, "Hey, the information that you've exported seems to be out of date. You might want to review it." I got another question in chat. Which LLM is NeuralSeek using to generate the answers? So we generally don't publicly disclose that. We're willing to discuss it with potential clients that sign an NDA. But I think generally the term we use is we use best price to performance curated LLM for the industry. Some other things that we can do here, we can merge intents. So if we have some that are super similar, we can go ahead and merge them and keep all the edited answers together. We're also able to unmerge and rename and categorize. We can also download to CSV just for a backup and flag things for later use. Flag it. I need to check back on that later. And edit categories. So we can manually edit the categories once you set those up on the configure tab. All right. Next up is analytics. So I got one more question. Does the thumbs up, thumbs down in the Seek tab actually influence the answers NeuralSeek will generate in the future? Or is it just so the feedback appears in the Curate tab? It is the latter there. It is just so that these stars appear in the Curate tab. So I can show you a little example of that, right? I just have this answer that I had. Why is the sky blue? I'm going to thumbs up. It doesn't actually affect language generation. It just gives you the stars in the UI. The reason being, people can like or dislike an answer that is correct or not correct. We don't generally want to influence generation based on user feedback because of that reason. You can see that we've got a 5-star rating for 1 thumbs up there. This is just for subject matter experts to review general user feedback from their answers. Perfect. All right, on to the analytics page. Here, you're not really going to see a lot of data simply because, hey, guys, we just made this today, right? There's no look back period available to you, but as a subject matter expert, you can use this look back period to see, what questions have been asked today, the past few days, the past week, the past couple weeks or month, and get an idea of where your users are asking questions, where your knowledge base coverage is, and where you might want to update your knowledge base coverage to improve your answer generation. I'm not sure how to answer that question, David, on the copyright grounds. We may have to ask that the NeuralSeek help channel or get back to you at a later time. From no worries. From here, you can also see the categories. If you set up categories on the configure tab, it'll drop your questions into different tabs based on the category to help organize this a little bit better. From here, we can check out the logs page, the next step. There's not a lot of meat and potatoes here on the logs tab. This is really just a high-level overview of what's happening with your bot and what questions are being asked, if there's a lot of the same session or a lot of unique users, date, times, and also lets you search. Just like in the Curate tab, you can search questions, answers, get an idea of what people are asking, or ask, search for specific terms, around physics or pi or NeuralSeek, stuff like that. One slight deviation here in terms of logging that I feel is worth a honorable mention. So if you provide a corporate like Elasticsearch endpoint, we can enable logging, which all requests and responses and Curate tab actions will be logged. It's a little bit more robust than the logs tab, where we just give you question and answer section history. From here, we're on to the last bit, explore. So there is a lot of meat and potatoes here that we can talk about. I want to first review, we've done a lot of work in the visual editor and the template language editor. If you accidentally skip away from this first pop-up, you can hit get back to it by the load near the bottom. So first, we're going to review the create a marketing email. We're going to go to example templates, prospecting email, write a marketing email. So you can see, we've gotten this example template together. If you're familiar with large language model prompting, that is what this is about. It's basically a large language model playground. We don't do any pre-prompting in the background for this. Most of these cards are tools to use with the language model, with your knowledge base that's connected, and with other REST APIs. So a big shout out to the REST API connector. If you have an API or a service that isn't set up with NeuralSeek, we don't have a built-in connector, you can connect to it just like you would any other API, right? There's an example of that I'll go over at the end of the lab here. So what we see here is we see write a marketing email based on this list. That is the first part of the text prompt. The next step, there's 3 steps here. I'll walk you through them. So the second step is a chain. So we start the chain by grabbing website text. We're going to reach out to a URL. This will prompt us for a URL here in a moment when we evaluate. But we'll reach out to a website, scrape all the text off of it, pipe that out through the next function, which is summarize. So we're going to take whatever comes back from the website, summarize it down to at most 1,500 characters, and then send that to the large language model and ask it to create a bulleted list of features based on this document, the output from summarize. So this completes the chain. So at this far right side, the LLM only sees the output of this chain, this horizontal chain. So it gets the output of the website text, summarize, and then to the large language model to create this bulleted list. At the next step, we send all the previous content to the large language model. So what the LLM sees is write a marketing email based on this list, a bulleted list, and then starts generation. So we're going to go ahead and evaluate this. I'm going to grab the Explore platform link off of our lab guide, but I find it quite humorous and entertaining to go onto Wikipedia and find something funny or something relevant to your client. If you're like a banking client or something, I can grab any kind of topic off of Wikipedia. Everything is text-based. It's a wonderful platform to grab text-based information for this. And you can see we've reached out to the documentation page of our website. We can see that we have a marketing email created with some bullet points about our strong suits. We don't get a good semantic match because it doesn't come from our knowledge base. It's just a web search, web scrape. But you can see some details about how many characters were created, the semantic analysis around it, coverage, unattributed terms and key terms, and so on. One other shout out, since we've written this lab guide, is the debugging tool. So we can hit the Explore Inspector up in the top right corner and visually walk through everything that just happened. So, step 1, we have write a marketing email. Step 2 starts a chain, which is the URL web scrape. We can see all the text that came back from the web URL. This is helpful for debugging. Maybe you put in a web URL and then it just generates garbage. But you can go in here and see, well, this is what the text came back from the website. Oh, there's no text that came back. It's, JavaScript generated, or it's image-based. Something went wrong. You see the little link icon next to the following steps. So in summarize, you can see um, the max length, and you can see the output of the summarization. So right here is the summary of the web URL text. And then finally, that gets sent to the large language model with a prompt, and you can see the output of that step. So even though we can't see it in the output at the bottom, we can see the output of this step, which is the bulleted list. And then finally, we can take a look at the final output. That's a good overview of this. Our next step is to write a memo using a knowledge-based query. So you can go ahead and hit the clear button down here. It'll take everything away, load a new example template, and we'll try the write a memo using a knowledge-based query. So this one's slightly different. We don't base it off of a web scrape URL. So functionality is very similar, but slightly different. We'll write a memo to staff discussing the following capabilities. Our knowledge base is NeuralSeek, so maybe we'll curation of answers or something, right? You want keywords in this cert, and then we'll send all previous content to the large language model and evaluate. So we're basically prompting the LLM with write a memo to staff discussing the following capabilities and offering KB snippets for the large language model to pick from. And then you see the output of this, dear team, excited to introduce NeuralSeek's Explore platform. A great little memo to start with. I love using this to draft initial emails and bits and information for the documentation. It's super helpful to just get started with things. So we'll go up to the Explore Inspector and check out what happened here. So we have the text card, we have the KB card, and you can see our one document that got returned from the KB is the Explore platform, and you can see the URL that it came from. This is what the LLM used together my corporate memo here, and then we can see the output of that. Final step in the lab is we want to chain this. So again, continuing on earlier, what I was talking about with the web scrape, the chain in the middle, we can do that ourselves right here by just clicking on the send to LLM under generate data. We'll drag it over to chain the output of these LLMs and say, something like, what does it say here? Condense this memo to 2 paragraphs. I like to make it fun and write the memo in a voice of a cowboy too. So we'll see the first memo starts to get generated, and then it'll all get deleted and chained back it'll get piped into the second LLM call. And you can see that we have a shorter memo, and it's written. You can have as much fun with this as you want. That really concludes the Explore section for the lab guide. I'm going to give you one more since we have a little bit of time. This one's another good example. So you can take a look at all the get data features. We can extract from extract entities. We can run Explore templates. We can hit REST APIs, website text. I can even upload a doc file and grab text from, a QA session or something when we don't necessarily want to load that into a knowledge base. We can do math, where we all know that LLMs are not strong at math. We can extract numbers from outputs into variables. Control flow, we can set use variables or JSON to system variables and write conditional flows. We can also do some database connections and table understanding around MySQL databases, IBM DB2. I'm actually working on a POC for that right now. And further, we can get them system variables, random numbers, modify data. So we'll remove PII, some JSON tools, remove snipe words, keywords, table prep, do regular expressions. The final one that I'm going to show you is an example template, and it's the recommend close based on the weather forecast. So this is a rudimentary example of how we can reach out to any REST API that supports programming languages, right? It's API for all kinds of. We can reach out to something like weather.gov and then send the output to the large language model. So you can see we reference a couple of variables here that come back from the API. We can go ahead and evaluate it and see our output. So magic this isn't really in the output. You can see what the output is, and we can see, this is what I would expect from an LLM with, the weather forecast. But in the Explore Inspector, you can see the post call to the API weather, and you can see all the variables that come back from that. And we can reference all of these in future REST calls, in future Explore template calls, LLM calls, you name it. So I'm not familiar with SPSS, but based on your question here, can you store and deploy those flows to call them externally for batch processing, for example? So it's probably a difference in terminology, but we can save templates. So like, we have all these example templates in here. We'll say the write a memo, for example. I can go here and I can just save this and, test memo. And this is where it gets really cool. Okay. So the common use case for this is to reach out from Assistant, but you can use this over our API and call templates over the API. So, I'm going to go ahead and evaluate this. It's probably going to give me a garbage response because I didn't change that KB search, whatever. But anyway, now that I've ran this template, we can save it, call it from the API, and provide variables. So like, let's say instead of KB search, I'm going to use main query. Save that and evaluate. So it expects a system variable called query. So I'm going to say NeuralSeek explore and evaluate that. Why I'm showing you this is when you rely on a variable like this, you can call an explore template with variables, set the output to a variable, and then reuse that later. You see this blue button has appeared. It has been enabled. So we can generate the open API spec for this and then come over here to Watson Assistant into the integrations, build a custom extension again. And then we can grab that test memo and set it up. And you see there's only one available call. You can do this again with this on the REST API available to NeuralSeek, but you can additionally build out flows that are designed to be used with Watsonx Assistant and do a quick export and quick import to say, here's 5 different variables that I need to map to this explore call. And I don't have to tediously input all of them and remember the names and input them into an array of parameters. They're all available as just parameters to the extension call. Super straightforward, super streamlined, super easy to get started. Additionally, finally, to wrap all that up, you can even call Explore templates from within Explore. So I can say, I want to call this test memo. I want to set a variable query, and I can evaluate this as if it was in itself. I need to work that out on my end, but that's how it's supposed to work. Great, guys. Just to answer that one last question before we get out of here, is there a tutorial on how to create and export multi-turn intents? There is resources on our documentation, but just to let you know, we can go right into the Curate tab and see answers that might be good as a conversation. and we get a generate conversation button. So we're able to generate that conversation, and then when you export it to actions, it becomes a multi-turn template. Super straightforward.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, absolutely. Hope you all have a good rest of your day.